I asked that question, Bev, because, Bev, you've had quite a lot of backlash fighting this for so many years in this country. Kathleen, I'm sure you have too. Go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, in this country, Dr. Wiesner, we have a lot of people, a small group of people who keep distracting the message. And I'd like to ask if you could speak to one of the distractions where they say, first of all, they change the meaning of the word transparency, and they call all kinds of non-transparent things transparent. But then they say, well, I'll tell you what, we'll keep our electronic voting, but we'll allow each voter to get a secret code, and they can go on the Internet and verify that their own vote was counted. Of course, I know from an accounting standpoint that that's checking one vote, or even several people checking one vote, doesn't really do anything if it's still concealed. But have you run across this proposal in Germany where they say, we'll make it transparent, but each person can check their vote?
Yes, we have this discussion as well, and there's similar to the yes, there's scientists mainly from the cryptography community who are researching this direction. I have strong concerns that this is more a transformation of the problem than a solution for a number of reasons. If you introduce such mechanisms, rather than having somebody who ensures the correct counting, you need to have somebody who ensures the correct management of these receipts, of managing the relations between the individual ballots and the receipt number. If that institution is not trustworthy, then there's all kinds of fraud that is possible regardless of you receiving a receipt. For example, there could be multiple persons who voted similar, who are getting the same receipt number, so who all look up their vote and are looking up the same vote actually, and so you save up receipt numbers which you can then use for fraud. So having a receipt for your own vote doesn't necessarily mean that the total election is correct. Also, there could be attacks where people try to guess which persons won't look up their receipt. For example, if you collect receipts in a bin next to the polling place, you could use analytical methods to basically make a best guess and determine the receipts which won't be used. And so there are all kinds of attacks to these receipt-based processes. And really, to make such a process work, you need to trust the entity that manages the receipt process. And if you trust that entity, why don't you trust the counting in the first place? So it's really transforming the problem from the trustworthy counting to the trustworthy receipt management.
Same horse, different color.
Very helpful answer. And one other question. Another thing they're trying to push us toward here in the United States is to have everybody vote by mail, which I contend has a lot of the same attack vectors as this receipt checking thing, where you've got an insider who really is in control of who actually casts those ballots. Do you have much absentee or vote by mail in Germany?
We have voting by mail for a couple of decades, and it has become bigger and bigger. And in this year's election, I think it's somewhere between 25 and 30% of the voters. So I'd say that's too much because it offers a large attack vector, and it's much more problematic than. Well, it's similar. The problems you get with voting by mail are similar to the ones you get with internet voting. You can't ensure any longer that the voter actually submits his vote in a free manner, that he doesn't sell his vote. You can't observe whether he's under pressure when he submits the vote. You can't ensure he's submitting the vote secretly. So there's all kinds of issues that you have with internet voting and you have with voting by mail. However, in a confrontational situation, you could still campaign for people to not use that method. So
right.
It's less a risk to democracy than a voting process that everybody has to follow because it's mandatory. So if you have e-voting equipment in the polling stations, then it affects anybody and you have to use it. But if you have vote by mail, yes, it's opening risks. But in confrontation situations, people could decide not to use it.
Except in my state and in 2 states now in the United States, it's forced to vote by mail. We have no option to go to the polling place anymore.
Yeah.
And one more thing with the vote by mail, just quickly, is I contend that it conceals who actually cast the vote as well. In a polling place situation, you know who came in to cast the vote in most cases, hopefully, because a real person shows up. But with vote by mail and internet voting, you don't really know who cast the vote that was counted.
Yeah, I mean the traditional voting methods, which I'd call like the paper-based voting, either in the polling place or voting by mail, they are obviously not tamper-proof, but if you vote in the polling place, you can normally see whether you get betrayed or not. So it's observable whether somebody is tampering, and it's observable. It's less observable if you do that over the internet. And
right.
The more centralized your electoral processes get, the bigger the lever for people who want to attack elections. So I'd strongly advocate any voting process that is heavily decentralized and that requires a lot of people to actually flip the result.
Very helpful answers. Thank you so much.
You talk about the internet. Just several days ago, the White House sent out a report that the internet, from a former intelligence director, Michael McConnell, says the soft underbelly of the U.S. today is the internet, and that it has introduced a level of vulnerability that is unprecedented. So hopefully with that new report, we'll not consider internet voting anymore.
Folks, we are going to the top of the hour. We're going to come back. I am told that we have Dr. Wiesner with us for another 20 or 30 minutes, so we've got a number of questions for him. And the story is, if you're just hearing it, it's just a few months old now, the German courts have ruled e-voting unconstitutional. With us today, physicist Ulrich Wiesner, Kathleen Wynne from handcountedpaperballots.org, and Bev Harris from blackboxvoting.org. I'm Jack Flood. This is Deadline Live, AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes.
Your happy hours now.